Well, U.S. President Donald Trump says American forces have seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship near the Strait of Hormuz. It is the first of such incidents since the U.S. military imposed a naval blockade on Iranian's southern coast, forbidding ships to head to and from Iranian ports. So in a post on Truth Social, President Trump said this, quote, "Today, an Iranian-flagged cargo ship named TOUSKA, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier, tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them. The U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the TOUSKA in the Gulf of Oman and gave them fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have control or custody of the vessel. The TOUSKA is under U.S. Treasury sanctions because of their prior history of illegal activity. We have full custody of the ship and are seeing what's on board." Now you can see the ship in question here on this tracker of marine shipping around the Strait of Hormuz. Most ships are not passing through the waterway due to the conflict. Iran said it was closing the route on Friday after briefly reopening it the day before. So Rosiland, I mean, this is the first time that we've heard of any U.S. or of the U.S. Navy, taking custody of a ship during this blockade of Iranian ports. What more do you know?
This has not been confirmed by CENTCOM, which is the part of the U.S. military that operates military operations in the greater Middle East. This is only coming from the U.S. president, and who ostensibly may be talking about a situation that is still at this hour classified. That said, what we do know about the TOUSKA is that it is part of an official Iranian government shipping company, and that shipping company has long been under U.S. sanctions, and so all of the vessels, all of the assets are similarly sanctioned, not allowed to travel to countries that do relations with the United States without those countries facing themselves the possibility of secondary sanctions. We don't know how many people are on board. We don't know whether any people on board the ship were injured. We don't know whether, if in fact U.S. Marines have taken control of the vessel, whether any of them have been injured or killed during this incident. This is simply all coming right now from the U.S. president's personal social media operation.
Okay, Rosiland, sit tight for a second. Let's bring in Ali Hashem, who's in Tehran. So, Ali, this obviously could be a very big deal. Are we getting any reaction from Iran on this thus far?
Well, just a few minutes ago, President Trump tweeted about this, or maybe an hour ago. For the moment, we don't have any reaction from the Iranians. Actually, for the moment, we don't have even any official reaction aside from the sources on the U.S. Reports on, or the U.S. president's saying that there is going to be talks in Islamabad. So it seems that the Iranian officials, for the moment, are taking a kind of a mute position till there is something clear with respect to all these issues. This is, of course, a development, and a development that could rise to a violation of the ceasefire, maybe, from the Iranian point of view. But at the end, this all comes at a time when the Iranians and the Americans are in the middle of a moment where there's a crossroads. Either they're heading towards a deal, an agreement, sitting together on the same table, or with the only few days left on the ceasefire, maybe back to escalation.
So, Ali, you've got lots of new reporting out of Tehran right now. The Iranian side obviously rejecting this second round of negotiations because they want that U.S. blockade lifted. I wonder what more your sources are telling you at this stage.
Well, actually, we have now a line coming from Mehr News Agency on your first question on the ship. So let me just read it immediately from the channel.
Please.
Response of the IRGC Navy to the shooting by U.S. forces at an Iranian commercial ship. The swift reaction of the IRGC Navy following the shooting by U.S. terrorist forces at an Iranian commercial ship near the Sea of Oman caused the Americans to retreat and flee. According to information received by Mehr reporter today in response to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the return of Indian and British commercial ships, as well as the control measures by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, the U.S. terrorist forces stationed in the waters around the Sea of Oman fired at an Iranian commercial ship to force it to return towards Iranian territorial waters. With the timely presence and quick reaction of the IRGC Navy units in support of the Iranian ship, the Americans were compelled to retreat and leave the area. So what they are saying here is that the ship hasn't been confiscated. Now, are we here talking about the same ship? Is it the same TOUSKA that President Trump mentioned or not? Then I think this is what we are going to know maybe in the coming hours. Let me get back to the talks in Islamabad. Sorry for the ins and outs.
No, that's okay. Sorry, Ali, just on this point, can you just clarify before we get to the talk? So they did not name, again, I don't have it in front of me, I'm just listening to you reading it. So they did not name the ship in this question. So could be talking about the TOUSKA, could be talking about something else, correct?
Maybe, yeah. So they're talking about an incident. The same geography, they're saying the Sea of Oman, the American Navy shot on it, but over here they're saying that the intervention of the IRGC Navy led to the Americans to retreat and the ship to get back. So this is at least the narrative that we're reading from Mehr News Agency.
Okay, on the talks now, yeah, please. What do we know about the talks?
On the talks, yeah. Well, we've not heard from any official by name immediately. We heard from sources. Sources were telling us. So now we're hearing from Iran's ambassador to Pakistan, who says, you cannot continue repeatedly violating international law, doubling your blockade, threatening Iran with more war crimes, insisting on your illogical demands, making grandiose statements, and pretending that you are seeking diplomacy. So the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan says, as long as the naval blockade remains, the lines of disagreement will also remain. This just confirms what we reported earlier, that the Iranians aren't going to take part except if the naval blockade is going to be lifted from on Iran. So this is one. Also, we heard from several other sources we've been reporting on, but most importantly, in the past hour, the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian had a phone call with the Pakistani Prime Minister. Pezeshkian told the Prime Minister of Pakistan the continuation of treachery and America's behavior based on force and intimidation during negotiations and the ceasefire period and the continuation of provocative and illegal actions is what is called the naval blockade of Iran reveals this truth more than ever, which is that America seeks to repeat previous patterns and betray diplomacy. So the Iranians actually are very concerned. And they've told us, actually several sources have told us this, that they are concerned this could end with another deception, whereas the Iranians will be seeking diplomacy. We will want to go to Islamabad to meet, and then the end of the ceasefire will mean the United States restarting the war. This is one of the main concerns, and that's why the Iranians till the moment are very skeptical. Today there was a meeting by the National Security Council, Supreme National Security Council, to decide, but we don't know what was the final decision, but it's clear that what we were hearing from our sources and what the president said and what the ambassador to Pakistan says, they're all in the same circle.
Yeah, and of course it's important to remind our viewers that save for the last round of talks in Islamabad, the previous two rounds of talks ended with U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian territory. Ali, sit tight. Let's go back to Rosiland for a second. So Rosiland, you have the Iranians saying they're not going unless this blockade is lifted. President Trump has not truth socialed anything about the talks, instead talking about this ship. So for all intents and purposes, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the Americans are going. Do we know who they are sending and maybe what they've got planned?
Well, we don't know exactly what the U.S. delegation will be taking back to Islamabad, given that the talks broke down last week over the fact that, according to the Americans, the Iranians would not give up their nuclear program, whether for civilian or for military purposes, unless there was substantial outside supervision of what the Iranians were doing. We do understand that the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance will be leading the delegation. The president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, as well as the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will be a part of the delegation. But as has been reported before, there is no trust in either Witkoff or Kushner at this point by the Iranians. There's ostensibly the idea that perhaps the vice president may have established some minimal level of trust, such that they were willing to actually negotiate for nearly 22 hours during that last meeting in Islamabad. But what the U.S. is taking in order to convince the Iranians that they are coming in good faith is a very good question. There's been no indication, in fact, there's been every indication to the contrary, that the U.S. is prepared to double down on its blockade of Iranian vessels, both military and commercial, coming through the Strait of Hormuz, preventing all commercial traffic in and out of Iranian ports. And when you consider that the Iranians, for example, earn 80% of their export income globally because of their oil shipments to other countries, primarily to China, this is a significant amount of economic pressure on Tehran to comply with Washington's demands. So we don't know what the U.S. is offering as a so-called olive branch, but they do have a delegation on their way to Islamabad at this hour.
Okay, Rosiland Jordan for us there in Washington, Ali Hashem for us in Tehran. We appreciate the reporting. Please keep us posted. Thank you.